Hey fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. Let's talk about some recent racket observations from the Australian Open. It's been a quite eventful tournament. I hope you've been enjoying it. If you need help with rackets, with strings and advice, please check out tennisnerd.net/help, where I have a course and consultation service. And if you want to ask questions, please don't use social media so much because I get hundreds of messages, can't keep up with them. So consider joining my member site, patreon.com/tennisnerd. That out of the way, let's talk about Tommy Paul. What an amazing event so far. Semi-final run. He has just beaten Ben Shelton by the time of talking, and he made a gutsy move. He made a move from his Wilson Blade 98 to Yonex V-Core 98, and I think it's the new one. It's painted to look like the new one, and I think actually it is that one. And he's playing maybe the tennis of his life and doing really well. We'll see how far he can go, but semifinals is already a very impressive result, especially considering that he just made the switch. And it's tough to compete, especially on this level, when you make a racket change. It seemed like he got a bit more pop, especially on the serve. His serve has been more dangerous than what I've seen before, in my opinion. So that seems to be the biggest change in the stroke production that I can spot. The guy he beat, Ben Shelton, he previously made a switch within the Yonex family. He was with the V-Core Pro 97 HD, a more control-oriented racket with an 18-20 string pattern. And he's been playing this tournament and a few tournaments before with the ISO 98. And this guy is a guy to watch. He has made huge strides in his game, very dangerous, seems mentally strong and focused. Was very impressed by his play. Quarterfinals in a Grand Slam at this age is just very impressive. So keep your eyes on Ben Shelton. American tennis is going strong at the moment. Another player who's playing amazing tennis at the moment is Stefanos Tsitsipas. Not as surprising as Tommy Paul, perhaps. He hasn't made any kind of gear switches. He was on and off with his string setup. He was with 4G. He had to do elbow surgery. Not sure if it was the string, but that string is pretty stiff, so it probably doesn't help when you hit millions of tennis shots over a year's time. And so he went 4G and natural gut in a hybrid setup, meaning different main and different cross string to soften up the field. You can do different mixes of different strings to achieve various different results. So that's always a thing to experiment with. Besides string tension, you can actually try hybrids with natural gut or a multi-filament, for example. So he did that. He also tried all the power and natural gut. In the end, now he's back to the full bed of 4G, which is a very control-oriented. It's a great string. It is quite firm. Definitely not for any players who have a history of tennis elbow, in my opinion. But these pros, they obviously need the best equipment that can bring out the best tennis. So even if it can be somewhat detrimental or create some kind of stiffness in the arm, even for these guys with the perfect technique, they will have overuse injuries on their elbows. That's very common, and some of them eat painkillers, and they have a physio team, and they do all the kind of sports therapy you can do and massages to make sure they maintain the body. But they need the best equipment for their game. They can't think so much about their physique in the way that we have to consider maybe using a softer racket or a softer string if we start hurting. A player with a racket that looks the same but with a different setup is Alex de Minaur. Had a good tournament before he ran into really angry Novak Djokovic, who completely demolished him. But he's playing with the Steam 99. That's a more powerful racket painted like a Blade 98. And he's used Luxland 4G Rough for most of his career, as far as I know. And now he's switched also to a hybrid setup. So you see more and more players, especially on the Pro Tour, playing with a gut hybrid to just soften that feel a bit, generate a bit more power. He puts the gut in the mains and the 4G Rough in the crosses. Quick commercial break. Thanks to our sponsor Fuzzy Yellow Balls for sponsoring this video. They have this excellent product called the Singles Playbook, where you learn patterns of play, and it teaches you how to defeat different styles of players, whether it's counter punchers, pushers, serve and volleyers, aggressive baseliners. You will get kind of some recipes on how to defeat them. There are videos for each chapter. So it's an excellent product that I bought before they asked to sponsor this episode. So easy to recommend this product. Check it out. The link is in the description. Daniil Medvedev has a new logo. A quite complicated one in my opinion, having worked in branding and logos, but I understand what the point is. He has it on his Lacoste shoes. I don't know the model of these shoes. If there are like a pro stock model, he uses some different mold. The same thing goes on for shoes, of course, not only for rackets, or if it's something that's commercially available. I am not sure. If you are a shoe expert, let me know in the comments. Talking about tennis shoes, there are many models, like with rackets, coming out this time of the season. I made a post about the new shoes, the Vapor 11, Vapor Pro 2, and these types of shoes coming out on tennisnerd.net, so check that out. I will be making more and more shoe reviews. The Babolat Pro Pulse 3 to come very soon. I get many questions about Sebastian Korda's racket. What is it? It's blacked out. What has he changed? It's an 1819 string pattern. He used to play with an 1820 Wilson Blade 98. But is it still that Blade 98? Doesn't quite look like it. But it could also be the new Wilson Shift. It's a line of rackets coming out pretty soon, but not all models will come out at the same time. So this might be a later model that he's using that is more controlled than the one you've seen on my channel from Henrik and from other playtesters. I have still not tried the Wilson Shift yet. I hope at some point I will. Another player that is playing the tournament of her life is Magda Linette. A very impressive run in the semifinals right now. I didn't see that coming, and she did make a switch, not that recently, but at least 6 months ago, from the Pure Drive, Babolat Pure Drive, to the Yonex EASE 100. So Yonex are making a lot of moves on the Pro Tour. Several pros switching to Yonex will increase sales in a positive way for them, so that brand is for sure growing. As I mentioned, Dunlop is doing some good changes as well, with sponsoring Poprin and a few other talented players like Van Rijthoven, Jack Draper, and they seem to be pushing their name out. So we'll see some movements in the power rankings of the big tennis brands, I'm sure, in this year. That's about it for this one. If you have any wishes for content and things you want to see, let me know in the comments below. Have a nice day, and don't forget to play some tennis.